And good afternoon. It feels really weird to be doing this on a weekday. It feels really weird to be doing this full stop, to be honest. It's, yeah, hello, welcome. I am back for the first time since about January because it has been a really weird year for me so far. Um, yeah, last year I was doing a lot of Lego building and I was really enjoying that Lego building. Every Sunday afternoon, just spending a couple of hours chilling out, building lots of models. As you can see, there's an amount of them behind me, and I am going to get back to that. But then at my first conference this year, which was in London, I managed to contract COVID. And that was kind of a problem. I wasn't ill. I was stuck in the UK, but I'm going to be honest, I think my mum was kind of happy because it meant that I spent 2 weeks with her instead of coming back to the Netherlands. Um, but I wasn't ill. I had a bit of a cold. I was tired. That was kind of it. The after effects have still not left me though. That is where I am still struggling today. It's going for runs, going for walks. Everything is really quite difficult right now. Um, okay, I'm just checking out my dashboards here. I don't know what the quality of the streaming is like. The quality of the streaming that I'm seeing back in the dashboards is terrible. Anybody in the chat, if you can just let me know whether or not you can actually view it. 'Cause if you can see it, it's better than me not being able to see it. Otherwise, I'm gonna have to see what I can do. But yeah, so I've been struggling with the after effects of COVID all year. It meant that my head wasn't in the right space to do Lego building. It wasn't in the right space to do streaming, and yeah, it just took too long really to recover. And by the time I did actually get back to being able to do something, I was in full conference mode and I was exhausted for different reasons. But I really wanted to get live coding this year. So there's only 2 weeks left before Christmas vacation starts. So I thought, okay, let's actually try the live streaming now. We'll do it for 2 weeks of the year. We'll see where it goes. And I'm going to try and take this further next year and see where it goes to. So, plan for today is to try and update my website to .NET 7, which I've been meaning to do for an age, but been putting it off for various reasons. And I think that's going to be interesting because the Azure functions that my website runs on, they're in process. And when you go to .NET 7, they have to be isolated. So I'm going to be doing a little bit of cheating today. I'm not actually going to try and update my functions to be .NET 7 isolated. I'm actually just going to transfer them to a new project because there's not that many functions in there. And I think that's going to be a little bit simpler. So let's take a look at what it is that we need to do. Hold on, why am I getting comments? But I can't. Where on earth are these comments coming from? Can we block user? There we go. We can block users. Why am I not seeing the comments in my YouTube window? That's really interesting. Okay. Well, that was a good start, wasn't it? Yeah, where were we before that interruption? We are going to update the site, bring it into .NET 7, and then we'll talk about some of the things that I want to be doing next year. So let's start off with the fun stuff. Let's have a look at the actual site before we get started and just see what it is that we're going to be changing. Somewhere around here, I have my site. So let's get the right image. Okay. So this is the site at the moment. It's kind of a little bit simple. It is, as I say in all my talks, an absolute work in progress. I just do this when I get a little bit of time to do things with it. So we just have a really simple homepage just showing the last blog post that I did. And I am desperately awful at getting blog posts out. One of those things that I know I need to improve. A little bit of contact stuff at the bottom there. We have a link to my blog posts, which don't get updated often enough. A link to my pictures, which really do not get updated often enough. I think the last time I did that was about a year ago, so maybe I need to start taking photos again. It is something I enjoy. My speaking engagements, which right now looks a little bit empty, and it really shouldn't do, because I do actually have a couple of speaking engagements for next year already, so I need to add those to this. And that's another change that we're going to be doing to the site over the next couple of months. Right now, all of this is hard-coded, and it really shouldn't be. I want to move it out of the hard-coded place where it is, and I want to move it into a Cosmos DB just so that I can get some practice and play with that and see how to get that one working. And then last but not least, we have a little bit of an About Me page, which again, there's nothing desperately complex in here. It's a reasonably simple Blazor application. So I am hoping that updating it is going to be simple enough. It is all hosted on an Azure Static Web App. So it's got Blazor WebAssembly front end, and it's using Azure Functions as the back end. So what we're going to do is make a new branch. We're going to change the code. We're going to make a pull request, which creates a staging environment for us. Check to see how that looks. And if everything's working, we'll push it to production, talk about next steps for the site. And then I am going to stop for the day because my voice is about to give out on me. I'm going to be honest, if it wasn't for the fact that I really want to make sure that I start streaming this year, I would have probably put it off until January and given my voice a little bit of time to recover. So let's start doing the fun stuff and actually have a look at the code. Now, I'm going to use some of the fun stuff that we have inside our StreamYard here. They actually give us music. DRM-free music. I'm going to turn that a little bit low so that I can have something to distract me in my head as well. And hello, Simon! Thank you so much for joining us. Oh, I really shouldn't try and speak loudly. This is going to be a really interesting stream. I apologize if my voice gives out on me. Question there, Simon. Is the stream watchable or is it really flickery? Because I can only see the previews on my YouTube and my Twitch dashboard, and it does not look good to me. I'm hoping that it looks good from the other side and it's just my machine that's playing up when it's receiving and not when it's sending out. So what are we going to do? First thing we want to do, we need to make a new branch for our site. Okay, voice is crisp, that's good. And the video is decent? Awesome. Then I can really live with the fact that it's my preview windows which are giving me issues, because I was a little bit scared there. I don't know if I'm overworking the machine a little bit. I'm trying to do this on one machine because I've not yet got the budget to get a streaming machine. So I've got a little Dell XPS laptop here trying to run everything, and I'm just hoping that it hangs around. So let's make a new branch. So we're going to do git. We're going to switch to a new branch. We want to create that, and we're going to call this .NET 7. And then we want to push this up to GitHub. We don't want GTI, we want Git. And we want to make sure that this is set to always push to GitHub when we do it. So we're going to do git push set upstream origin. I do love in the latest PowerShell that it actually gives you a reminder of the last command that you used. It makes life just a little bit easier sometimes. So we go set upstream origin, and we want to send that. Oh, we've already got origin. .NET 7. Cool. We have a branch. Now we can get going. We can start with the really simple stuff. So our client, we can up this one to .NET 7. And then we can check our dependencies for that. Let's check our Nugget packages. Yep. We want to put all of those up to .NET 7 as well. We want to say yes to everything because we always say yes to everything, don't we? Oh, that's interesting. Package restore failed. Why did package restore fail? Ah, yes. Right. Because we need to do the rest of it as well. Tell you what, first of all, we're going to just put everything to .NET 7. We'll deal with the API later. We can at least send it to .NET 7. It just means that we can't deploy it. This package shouldn't have any Nugget references. Video's blurry. Is the text still readable, or do you want me to zoom in a bit? I can always zoom in. Okay, we have no Nugget packages for the models project, which is kind of what I was expecting. API tests. We can make those 7. We can make the API 7. Right, let's zoom in a little bit. If needs be, I can zoom in the whole screen. At the moment, it's running just a little bit more than, a little bit less than full HD, but I can push that without a problem. Okay, so that should be everything in .NET 7. Let's just check our dependencies. What updates do we have? Well, you know what? We might as well update those at the same time as well. Okay. Let's do the same for... Even though we're going to delete this API, I just want to make sure that everything is running up to date before we move forward. I also want to make sure that I click the right button. So now, hopefully, if I clean everything and rebuild, it's going to work. Otherwise, I'm going to scream right at the start. So let's clean the solution. Okay. In theory, that should be cleaned. So why am I not getting the message that it's cleaned? Clean succeeded. Now if we rebuild, hopefully that's going to work. Otherwise, we'll just start deleting all the folders until it works. Yay! Okay, so updating to .NET 7 is really not difficult when you got a simple project. The fun's really going to come from the API. What I do want to do, though, is I just want to fire up the... Do I want to do this? I'm trying to figure out if I want to fire up the client just to see how that is working, because I'm not 100% convinced. I need an API in order to make this work. So I think I do actually... Yeah, everything should work. It's going to work locally. It's only going to fail when I deploy it. So let's start this. Now, in order to run an Azure Static Web App locally, we're going to need to use the Static Web App CLI. The way that a Static Web App works, for those that haven't used them yet, you deploy static files for your front end, hence the name Azure Static Web App. And those static files can display dynamic content by calling a backend API. That API is an Azure function. And there is glue in the middle of all of this to ensure that the requests go to the right place without you having to worry about cores or anything else or setting stuff up to talk to each other. Just happens automatically out of the box, and it makes life a little bit simple. Obviously, when we are running locally, that is a little bit of an issue. Because when we're running locally, we're not inside of this Azure resource. So we need to still be able to point the front end to the back end in the right way. Now, it used to be, when static web apps were first released, that you had to put in all sorts of code in order to do this yourself. Thankfully, that is not the case anymore. We now have a static web app CLI. And along with all sorts of other stuff which SATS does, which we will look at in the future, what that SLI does is kind of pretend to be that Azure Static Resource on your machine. So it starts a Node.js server, and it redirects any request that should go to the front end, to your Blazor application, or your Angular application, or your React application, whatever your front end framework of choice is. And the requests that go to the API, to authentication, to anything like that, it pushes to the correct place. So let's start this up now. And in theory, we should get our core tools starting up. Wow, that went boom, didn't it? Oh, maybe this isn't going to work. There is no such thing as a .NET 7 in-process function. So we are going to have to spin this up properly. Oh, that's a shame. I was really hoping to see the front end working before I started on the fun of the back end. Right, never mind. Well, we learned that one quickly, didn't we? It's kind of an all or nothing thing that we have to do here. So what I want to do is add a new API. And I'm trying to figure out what I'm going to do for naming for that backend API yet. But we're going to add a new backend API, and that is going to be out of the box our .NET 7 isolated Azure functions. We're then going to bring the things across that we need to in order to make it work. So we're just going to be basically copying some code out of here. So our adapters, our data, and our Azure functions, and we're just going to be moving those into this new isolated function. And then we're going to try and push that forward and get that working inside of Azure before we move on. So let's give that one a try, shall we? Now, I really want to keep the name API. I like the name API. So I want to rename this one first. So let's go back to here, and we're going to cheat a little bit. We're just going to open this up in VS Code because I find it easier to do this work inside of VS Code. No, give me full screen. I don't want a half screen. So what we're going to do, we're going to come into here and we're going to call this API. Can we rename this? We can. 6. I'm not going to call it old. I'm going to keep it called .NET 6. Once everything's working, I'm going to remove this folder completely. Interesting. Why did that not rename it properly? Isn't it great when you start something up, you're on screen, and everything dies on you instantly? I'm sure I just said rename that. That's not going to work. Oh, I know why that's not going to work. Of course that's not going to work. That's not going to work because we have it open. We'll reopen the solution in a second. There we go. So now we have our .NET 6. And I just want to make sure that we carry on this rename all the way through. And I also want that in my solution. And let's just hope that I've actually renamed all of that correctly. Otherwise, this is going to go really badly in a second. So let's reopen stacyclash.accounts, and it opens stuff up, and it's not found .NET 6, which means I've renamed that badly. You know what? It's fine. I've got it open in VS Code. I can copy code from there. Let's carry on. So we're going to add a new project here. So we want a new project. We want to have an Azure function. We want the computer to do something quicker than this, please. Thank you. We're going to call this API. The reason why I want to keep this called API is because Azure Static Web Apps, out of the box, by default, they have the client and the API set up inside of the pipeline. Now, I'm going to be rewriting that pipeline eventually, but right now, I would like that pipeline to stay exactly as it is. So we're going to keep it called .NET. We're going to keep it called API for now. We're just going to replace the other one completely. The least that I have to do to my pipeline, the better. We want this to be .NET isolated. I don't care about having a function created for me just yet. And why does API already exist? I have renamed API. That should not exist anymore. Yet it does. What's inside of that API? Ob. Try that one again. We'll just delete what was left over with the rename and we'll move forward. So we have our API, our .NET 7 isolated function. Now, what I want to do first of all is fix my API tests. I want to make sure that that picks up the right ones. That's why I'm turning it off and turning it back on again. Now, obviously, all of those tests are going to fail because we've got no code inside of here yet. So let's start to bring some code in. Let's have a look at VS Code and see what we have. Inside of my API.NET 6. Now, the first one that I want to bring across is this data, my engagement list. Now, this is, as with so many things in IT, this was my, I need to just add some code here. I need to just add some data here. I don't have time to set up a proper database connection. I'll just have an IEnumerable of my engagements and I will just get my data from there. I'll fix it properly when I have time. We never have time. It's never going to happen. It's a terrible thing to start with. And okay, fair enough. But let's just copy this code and we're going to move it back. I'm going to keep this for now. We are going to get rid of this. And we're going to get rid of this on stream sometime next year. We want an engagements folder. Oh, it was a data folder, wasn't it? Data folder, and inside of there, we want a new task, a new class that's called engagements. If I can type. It's very often that I can actually type. Let's replace this with the old code, and let's just make a couple of changes here. First up, I want a file scope namespace. And then I'm going to need to link my API to my models. So I need to add a link to models here. And hopefully I should be able to fix this by using models now. Step one. And now we want our adapters folder. Ooh. Oh, yeah, that's fine. API tests are going to complain because we don't have everything that we need. But we know we don't have everything that we need. We're going to be adding that later. Now, the adapters, what I use these for is to get my... Can we copy paste between Visual Studio Code and Visual Studio? Only one way to find out. No, we can't. Damn it. So the way that my blog post works, I still post on dev.to, but I want to display my blog post on my website. So I have a call that goes to dev.to. It retrieves the list of all of my blog posts, and then it converts it into the type of data that I want to display on my site. Now, I could have done this in a really simple way, but I wanted to do this and learn stuff at the same time. So I actually wrote my own JSON parser in order to extract the information that I wanted from that request to dev.to on the fly. So we're going to bring these things over one at a time. And I want to do this in an easier way. So let's add an existing project. And we want, we're in GitHub, stacyclouds.net, API.NET 6. Oh, did I forget to rename that file? I guess I did. So if we do this, will this now reload? Okay, so I want to bring my adapters across. So I am just going to say copy, and I want to paste these here. Yeah, replace the folder of adapters. That's all fine. Let's close all this so that we don't have too much to treat us on the screen. So what do my adapters do? Well, I've got two things. I have a summary adapter where I get a JSON input, and I basically just go through and try and get the ID, the publish date, the blog URL, the title of the blog post, the description of the blog post, and the cover image out of that JSON that I get back from the dev.to call. And I use a JSON element extractor here that can get me either an int32, a string, or a datetime, because they're the three things that I want to extract from the JSON. And then I just have the enum to make that work. And I have that for the full post adapter. So that's when I display a full blog post on my site. That also still goes back to dev.to, gets me that full blog post, and then displays it. My picture blog post, that doesn't go to dev.to. That goes to WordPress. That is where my picture blog was first hosted, and gets the information back from there. So all of these should work, but they're complaining about missing classes. I'm just trying to figure out where they were in the original one. Where's this blog post summary? That's in models. If that's in models and I'm referencing models, where's the problem? Oh, am I using a global usings anywhere? Nope. That's really odd why that didn't work. System.text.json.json element. Oh, have I got to do this on all of them? Let's get them all working, shall we? Now that should work for all of them. That one's fine. This one's going to complain. I'm not sure why I lost all of those namespaces. That just seems really weird. Hey, Thindle! How's it going? I'm a little bit how can we say that, delicate today. It's I was saying at the start of the stream that my voice is about to die on me. I've had a cold or the flu or something for like 3 weeks now, and every time you think, oh, it's getting better, you then come crashing down again. So this morning I woke up, I could barely talk at all. It's actually better than it was then, but I desperately wanted to start streaming this year. So I really wanted to do this stream. I doubt it's going to be 90 minutes. I'm going to go either until this particular job is done or until my throat completely gives out on me. But I wanted to make sure that I'm at least live today so I can say, right, I have started. I have a base that I can build on and I can try and move forward. So we'll see where we get to. But what we're up to today, I'm going to try and update my site from .NET 6 to .NET 7. So most of it was reasonably simple. So the Blazor WASM application, the shared project between the API and the front end, all of that should really have been not too bad. Still got to run it yet, so we don't know if it's broken, but it should be okay. For the API, I have to change from an in process to an isolated Azure function. Now, I have seen guides on how to do this online, and I kind of decided that, you know what? It's probably going to be easier for me to just do this by recreating the entire project, because it's not the most complex project in the world, than it would be to actually try and manually update it. So I've just created my new API. I've copied some of the stuff across. Hopefully it should build now. Let's give that a build while we're waiting. And then I'm going to add my Azure functions. We're going to deploy it into a staging environment inside of Azure. And we'll see. If it works, then we can go woohoo. And if it doesn't work, then you might see me headbutt the table. You never know. And you're still coughing from a month ago. That's not a good sign. And so I must say, so far, I've not yet been coughing. It's gone around the house, and I think other people in the house have been iller than I have, but mine's just like staying on. I think my long COVID and the flu have just decided to get together and try and beat me up without making me explicitly ill. I have no stamina. I have no lung capacity. And yeah, it's not necessarily fun, but you have to make the best of it, don't you? And yeah, headbutting the table is definitely an integral part of being a dev. You know, seriously ill doesn't sound fun. I was just really lethargic for a week and achy and everything else. I didn't have a head cold or anything. I felt guilty. I did call in sick for a little bit of self-care, but I felt guilty doing so because I was just tired and in pain. I wasn't ill. This week it's decided to change and go back to being ill, but I am working because the idea of self-care has gone out of the window because I've already taken 1 week off. We'll see how it goes. I am just going to try my best. It's and I hope that yours gets better soon too. It most certainly isn't fun. So where were we? Okay, that build succeeded. This is good. I think actually my API test, I wonder. We pointed this to the right place. It's now pointing to, oh no, we didn't. We need to point that to the API. No, not that one. That one's the API.NET 6. I want the API tests. This should already be pointing to our new API, and everything should be in there, which means our engagement test. You know what? All of this should actually work. I think I want to give this a try. Drum roll, please. Do my 36 tests pass? Yay! Okay, so we know that we have the right code in there. Yeah, passing test is good. Shouldn't I assert that result instead of discarding it? You are absolutely not wrong there, but there is a reason why I did this just as a very, very fast test. I am cheating right now. I know that my engagement list should come from a data source. It doesn't, because when I first set up my engagements page on the site, I actually said there's only like 2-3 engagements on there, and I just wanted to get it out there quickly so I didn't set it up properly at all. I have this, where's my data? I have this engagements class. And what this does is just return an array of engagements. So this is all of the talks, conferences, etc. that I've done this year. The reason why I wanted to add this test wasn't to check that what I got back was a valid list of engagements with the correct data per se, but the way that I normally edited this. Let's go to my browser. What I would do when I got a conference accepted, or when I said that I would host a conference and so could add information here, I would just come directly into GitHub. I wouldn't download anything to my machine. And I would edit this file directly. I am not good at this. I'm really not good at this. And 2-3 times I managed to change the code and I broke it. I didn't put it quite in the right format. Basically, I'm a human and I was doing stuff quickly without an IDE, and you soon see why you use IDEs. Problem is, because I was doing everything in main because I just wanted to do a quick change, it actually broke my site. And I didn't want it to break my site. So I introduced this test just to make sure that before I did a deployment to my site, that I knew that I could actually get a list of engagements back. I don't know if they are correct, but at least I know that I get a list of engagement. And you are totally right. A static CS file for this is not good. But it did work. Unfortunately, it grew into a monster. It was one of those things where you say, okay, I'm going to do this while I've only got 3, and then I'm going to write it properly in the future when I've got time. And how often have we used those words? How often have we heard those words? I'll do it properly when we have time. I never had time. It never got done. But it is one of the things I'm going to be doing on stream next year. What I want to do is move all of this into a Cosmos DB, because in Azure you get, 25 gig and 1400 RUs free in Cosmos DB in your account. So I think, yeah, why not move this into Cosmos DB? And then I'm going to add the authentication to the website so that I can just add engagements on the website on the fly, and I don't have to do any of this stuff in future. And it's going to save me hassle. Yeah. But right now, it is what it is. So that is why this test is really not that fantastic. The other tests are better tests. This one is just, yeah. Yeah, Cosmos can get horribly expensive when you go over the free limit, but I believe that if you, as long as you provision your RUs, I am assuming as long as you provision your RUs and you don't go over that 25 gig, and I don't think I'm ever going to go over 25 gig, should my site suddenly get super popular, the only thing that's going to happen is I am going to get rate limited. And at that point, I think I'm going to have a luxury problem of trying to figure out how to make it work better for the amount of interaction I've got. But that's so far down the line, I'm not particularly fussed about that just yet. And yeah, any test is better than no test. 100%. So the nice one, actually, the whole JSON extraction that I did, all of these tests here, this text post summary, I wrote the whole JSON parser entirely TDD because I wanted to practice. I like TDD. I think it is a superb way of making software, but I'm not well practiced in it. So I actually wrote this entire piece of functionality, TDD style, figuring out what I needed it to do before I started. And it actually worked. I think I wrote all of this in 2 hours, including learning what I was doing. And it worked out of the box because I had all of these tests to make sure that I only got back what I expected to get back. I was actually really happy with that. Do you know what the bad part of having an actual office for your company is? Bored people just come over and open the door. Yeah, it's I go to the office every Monday, and I must admit I am not as productive in the office on a Monday as I am here. I spend more time talking to people than I do getting on with stuff, which is fine. An amount of my job is talking to people. But I certainly can't sit down and do any concentration work when I'm in the office. You got your Stacy stream time disturbed. Never mind. But you're still here. That's impressive. You didn't have to leave, so I'm happy. It's nice having the interaction. And I think you can't do TDD. Well, maybe I can, but the problem is that I have no idea what I'm going to do before I start. I have heard this so many times, and it is exactly this. I can't figure out how to define the interfaces before actually writing the implementation. I struggled with this for a long time, and the way that I got it, I was advised to do it by, who was it? At @GPaulHill on Twitter. Love the guy. He's got some awesome tweet threads that he does. One of them, he was talking about microspikes. So when you're doing something, it's not actually bad to start off without tests, as long as in your head, the only thing that you're doing is getting knowledge. So he will often start a spike and it can last minutes, it can last an hour. And the only thing he gets out of that is knowledge. So he will do the whole thinking with a keyboard, coding just to make stuff work, to see what he needs to do, to get an idea of where he needs to go, make a note of what it is that he needs to do, and then he will kill that branch and he will start again. And now he knows what the interfaces are. He knows what he needs to achieve. And then he can do the TDD approach. And that just really rang in my head. I still find it really hard to do because most of the time your brain's telling you this is going to take longer. You don't have time for this. But when you do it, it can actually work better. Yeah, it does feel like it takes a while. Absolutely. But it can work really well. And I think it's one of those things that you just really need to get into the cycle and the practice. The other one that I can't remember who said this, so I can't attribute it to the right person. But it's another one that spoke to me, which was, if you don't know what your code is going to look like, so you can't write tests for your interface, how are you going to write the code that you want to write? And it's like, well, I do this all the time, but I still agree with the sentiment. Maybe it might be worth thinking about this and trying to do it. And this one, totally this one. The risk of when you do it that way is that you might be writing happy tests and no failing ones. I have caught teams in the past doing this. They were doing test after, and I wasn't going to push them on TDD at the time because we were getting into a new way of working, and I didn't want to overload them all in one go. They were writing tests, and that was good. But I was pairing with or mobbing with the team one time, and they finished the code, and then it came to tests. I was like, right, let's have a look at the code and see what we need to test. I was like, let's have a look at the specs and see what we need to test. And just saying that phrase and getting them to write their test from the specs instead of their test from the code, which is, we've all done it. You write the code and you use the code to write your test. And yeah, they actually found a couple of bugs because they had misunderstood something when they wrote the code. But when they started writing the test, if they'd have written it to the code, they'd have never caught that bug. So it's good that they went back to the specs again and wrote it from there. And yes, when I start writing it, figure it out, I need an extra parameter and then keep going. If I'm doing TDD, I have to go back and update the tests too. I've actually seen a nice one for this as well. Ian Cooper has an awesome talk about where TDD went wrong, or goes wrong, went wrong, has gone wrong. And he talks about making sure that you're writing the test at the right place. So that if you change any of your implementation, your test still pass and you don't have this issue with brittle tests. If you change something in your implementation, then your test change. As long as you're not changing the functionality, your test should stay passing. Again, it's another really hard one to get right, but it's something that I really want to get working on. So this is all stuff I'm going to try and practice next year on stream and do it on code that I have a reasonable idea of before I start, so that hopefully I can start to do it on code that I don't have that much of an idea on before I start and improve myself. That's down on my list of things I want to get out of streaming, is most definitely improve the way that I code and improve my knowledge. And I just want to learn online and make all my mistakes in public, because for some reason I'm a bit daft like that. But yeah, always keep learning. Right, so we've got all of our tests working. Now we get to do the fun stuff of adding our Azure functions. So we need 3 functions. We need one to retrieve full blog posts, one to retrieve the list of engagements, and one to retrieve the WordPress blog posts. So that'll be the picture blog posts. So I'm going to add a new Azure function. And let's keep on naming this same. Let's call this blog post. Blog post, blog posts. Actually a bad name, but I don't particularly want to change the name just yet. And here we get the real amount of fun. This has been causing me grief over the last few weeks when I've been looking at it. Yeah. That's exactly what I'm doing. It's my blog posts are stored on dev.to, and my pictures. Let me show you the website. Where's my website gone? Hello, website. There's website. So all of these blog posts are stored on dev.to. No, it's the first time I've shown this project. It's fine. I've never shown this on site before, and to be honest, it's completely cheating. So, but yeah, it's my blog post. They come from dev.to. So if you go to dev.to/API, you go articles, and then you give a username, and you get all of the articles for that particular user. So that's what I'm using to get my main screen, and then. Is it, if we go to the article and we give the ID, then you get the article itself. So this is how I'm getting everything out of dev.to. And then where is my other one? I've got to do this off screen, but I think it's something like, so this is my picture blog post, which, as you can see, it's been more than a year since I've posted a picture because I've just not had a great year this year. But this is where I upload my pictures to. And then I read this API, and I use that in order to get this page. So I have 3 different ways of getting data into my site, and I want to slowly move everything so I actually store it on my site. Now, as a nice aside, this is one that I want to work on next year, the actual blog post site. Oh, you've seen that one? Yes, absolutely. We have the Atraxi. That is a climbing frame on a kid's playground in the village where I live. And I took my son there and I saw this at the edge of the climbing frame and instantly Atraxi. It was just, in a word, run. I had to get that picture. I'm a geek and proud. But no, next year, what I want to start to do is actually edit the blog posts on my site. And Dev.to, I have a developer key for this. And when you got a developer key, you can create, update your blog post, everything else via a REST interface. So I'm kind of thinking, cool, I can start to edit the blog post locally, but I don't have to worry about storing them yet. And I can still host them on Dev.to and slowly move things across. And eventually I do want to just store it locally, but for now, I'm quite happy to have it cross-posted here so that it's easily available on Stacy _cache. It's I'm quite happy it being available here and available here. I've just got to make sure that I get the canonical URL sorted. But yeah, I want to slowly move across, slowly get more and more things running inside of my site, just so that I can practice doing things and just play with it. Pictures, they're going to come later. I don't know how much later, but they're going to come later. But the blog post, I want to get moved across next year. Another reason why I want to do the streaming is it gives me kind of a couple of hours each week that I really want to spend doing stuff. It actually forces me to sit down and find something fun to do and spend some time concentrating on it. Yes, I think I heard someone mention something about working on your personal brand. Yeah, I wonder where the idea for that talk could have come from. So, yes, there's no point in telling people to do stuff that you're not going to do yourself, is there? And absolutely, you know what? Nerd, geek, I don't mind either of those. Whoa, mine's gone blank. I don't mind either of those words. You can call me a nerd, you can call me a geek. When I was younger, it caused me serious pain. These days, no, I am a nerd, I am a geek. Look at the Lego behind me. Look at the stupid stuff that I enjoy doing. Look at the cat's ears. I geek out, I nerd out, and yeah. Then I'm definitely a nerd. I am 100% a nerd because I like Doctor Who. I don't have a room full of Doctor Who paraphernalia, but that's more probably because I think that idea would get vetoed than because I don't want it. Okay, my voice is really starting to go, so I think I need to try and get this working so that I can go downstairs and treat myself to a cup of coffee because this is working before I stop. Where were we? So we have our blog posts. Now, when we, I'm going to have a nice cup of tea when I'm done here and sit down for 10 minutes before I go back to work. It used to be when you're running an in-process show function that you had a nice amount of input bindings and you could get information really easily in and out of your Azure functions. That changed. I really don't enjoy the isolated programming style, but wow, I obviously did a typo there. But it's something that we have to live with a new one. So for example, we had action results. We don't have iAction results in the isolated. We now have to do HTTP response data, which you have to do via this request.createResponse. So there's an amount of extra oh yeah, I hate myself sometimes. I can look back on old code and I can swear at myself quite nicely. So this is the reason why I wanted to just bring this across into a... can't you just return an object and it'll serialize? When I tried to do that, it didn't work for me. You don't need to add the headers. That is absolutely true. So we're not going to be doing the headers. It will work the headers out for you, I'm pleased to say. But what we're going to do is start with this function. So let's just bring this whole function across, and then we'll see what we need to change. And this is one that I don't have tests for, and I really should. I'm not 100% sure how to test Azure Functions, so I might ask somebody to come on screen with me at some point and go through it with me. I know a few people that like Azure Functions. We'll see whether or not they want to spend some time. So we need to change it from function to, or from function name to function. That's the first one. We need to return HTTP response data. We fix a typo while we're at it. Get blog post. Now the HTTP trigger, that kind of remains pretty much the same, I think. We still have the authorization level, we have the HTTP method, and we have the root. But we don't actually have this HTTP request. We have HTTP request data. Interesting. One of the things that you actually lose. It used to be that if I did, say, blog posts /ID, you could then do your int ID here, and it would pick up your ID, and it would deserialize it for you. I haven't managed to get that working yet in isolated functions, so I don't know if I'm doing something wrong or if it's not supported, but wow, it annoyed me a lot. So what do we need next? We still need, this all stays the same, I think. So we get our HTTP client, but you know what? We need to get our HTTP client. So let's copy this one over. Now, I'm also going to be injecting this at some point. Since it's an isolated thing anyway, I can do this properly and make sure that I inject things as I should do. For now, for today, we're not going to be going into that. Yeah, absolutely, HTTP client factory. That is going to happen. Just not today, but it is going to happen. You can hold me to this. Then we are going to get our articles. We're going to deserialize the result. We want to use the API adapters to get our summaries that we're going to return back. And then we're going to copy this and we're going to fix it a little bit. So let's have a look. Was it something like await response dot right JSON async and summaries? So let's get rid of this first one because we don't need that fake function anymore because we've now got the way that we're going to access it. And in theory, that should be our first function done. We talked about when I have time. Yeah, I know, but yeah, I'm supposed to be stopping in 30 minutes. And I don't know if my voice is going to carry on that long either. And I do unfortunately have some actual work that I've got to do today, not just streaming. So I can't be late today because I need to get in contact with some developers, a manager, and get some stuff finished. So I really need to be on time. Even if it's not just my voice, it's not fine. It's annoying me that I keep on putting stuff off, but it'll get there. So the next one that we had was... That's getting the blog post, and then we need to get an individual blog post. So let's kind of copy that. And again, we need to change the function name. We need to make that a HTTP response data. Yes, it will. It will indeed. And I'm going to do that once I've got this one done. And that was clipboard history. It's if you're running on Windows, then Windows, I think it came in sometime in Windows 10, but certainly on Windows 11. If you do Windows paste, then you get your clipboard history. It is awesome. Out of the box clipboard history. A bit like, the Windows dot, you also get your emoticon board, which is, also kind of good fun. So for our bad request, we don't actually return a new bad request. We need to do a request dot create response. Is it create response? Yeah. So why are you not giving me? Oh, I know why. Because I've not changed this yet, have I? That needs to be a data, and let's align these a little better. Status code dot add request, and then we can return our this can come down here, can't it? So that should return as our bad request. You are welcome. It's the thing is, I don't actually reprogram my hands. I still use Control V most of the time. Yeah, so I keep on forgetting to turn off the chat bubbles. You need to reprogram your game for your brain for the WinV. I need to reprogram my brain to turn off chat bubbles. But I don't actually reprogram my brain to do the Windows V. I still use Control V unless I explicitly want history. And yeah, hello, Fuel Snable. Did I pronounce that correctly? How are you doing today? Thank you for joining us. Okay, so we now need to do the same thing here. So we can copy this code here. So we go out, we try and get the article, and if something bad happens, then we want to do something along this line, don't we? I don't know if this is going to work. Come on, go to the... Hey, that should work. Okay, so we should be able to just do a... Okay, that should work. Okay, I need to practice my Dutch here. Can I practice my Dutch here? Morton? Is the A with the circle above it, is that kind of an O? Morton? I'm desperately trying to do my... You're close enough, thank you. Desperately trying to learn Swedish. It's going slowly, but it is going. And yeah, it is a classic Visual Studio look. Well, I just run it in demo mode. So it is... Oh, forgotten the name of the extension. I'll find out for the next stream. He says talking about someone who's not him. Love it. And yeah, I just always run, anytime I'm doing a demo or if I'm streaming, then I run it in presentation mode. And it turns off all of my extensions, everything else, just to give me the snappiest response. And yeah, you just get classic Visual Studio look out of the box, and yeah, it works. I can live with it. Then we get our content, we convert our content, and then we need to say var response. We need to be able to type. Yeah, var response equals rec.create response, and that one can be a HTTP status code. Okay. And then we need to await response.write JSON full blog post. And then we can return the response. Okay, if that builds, we're going to try running this locally and see what happens. I do need no docs. I still need to install no docs. You know what? That's kind of one of the things that I know I always need to do, and I don't quite get around to doing it. It will be done. Okay, let's try debugging this then, shall we? I'm ignoring that red code for now. Oh, that still didn't... Did that work? I'm trying to figure out whether or not this one is from this time. Yeah, okay, that's good. So let's try getting our list of blog posts. Yay, we have a list of blog posts, and then let's try getting an actual blog post. Woo! Okay, we have the first function done. I think that was possibly the most complex of the three too. Engagements is really small. It's quite nice. So let's add our engagements function now. Trigger. And let's just copy over this and we'll fix it in the other side. So we have our authorization level is anonymous, our get is still there, our root is engagements. We want HTTP request data. Not that we use it, because what we need to do is make a response from our request. And we want that again to be the HTTP status code dot OK. Okay. And then we want to do a okay, this is already async. That's good. So we want to await the response dot. Nope, I don't want to write bytes. I want to write JSON. And I want to put that in there. And then I want to return the response. I'm going to import my engagement list. And it needs to be response data, doesn't it? And just the function. You know, I'm going to change the name of here. I know that this is running ahead of myself because I don't need it until next year. But I want to change this to be Engagements underscore get all. I want to give it a proper function. It should. It absolutely should. 100%. We need to get this. Can we build? Fingers crossed. Then let's run this one again. I always lose the debug option. Oh, there might be a problem in the later version though. They're giving up on the old extension model and Nodox is kind of dependent on not being async. Ooh. Are you going to change this on stream? Okay, let's get our engagements and go back to our browser. Yay! We have all of our engagements there too. This is good. We're making progress. Okay, I don't like the fact that I'm getting argument out of range exceptions on Visual Studio, though. We've got a few years left. It's not till 2025. Does that mean that this is one of those things that you're still going to keep on kicking down the track until we get to the point where it's absolutely required? Is this your when we've got time? Sorry, that's mean. Okay, so we've got one more left to do, and that is our That's not mean. Have you seen my code? I never comment on anybody else's code as long as I don't have to how do you say that? Support it. I try not to comment. It doesn't go well in my head commenting on other people's code. But I do love this. 100% of the code is 50% implemented. So our WordPress blog posts kind of has the same thing here. We have the same get HTTP client. This is another one that should really be part of a HTTP client factory. It will come. But again, we only have one function here, and that is just to get all of the WordPress blog posts. So hopefully this one's going to be reasonably quick to come across. You had another question in there too, didn't you? Can you force support? You can force support that Azure functions run on. So there's two ways of doing this. One is, where is it? In the launch settings. Out of the box, it comes with a random port assigned to it. And I like to do this because this just puts it back onto 7071. If you're not running multiple Azure functions, then keeping it on 7271 just makes life easier, especially for a static web app, because a static web app CLI automatically uses 7071 out of the box. If you are using multiple, then you can just set this to whatever makes sense to you, so at least you know what it is. If you're running it at the command line, then you just need to add that -- port, and it will force support to be whatever you want it to be. Speaking of code, had an interesting discussion using other shader code in your work. The issue was that I based part of my shader on another shader that had quite a restrictive license. But the intention of the restrictive license was preventing the NFT crowd to mint NFT art from it and sell that for their own profit. How did you solve that one in the end? That doesn't sound like a fun discussion to be involved in. Oh, that's cool at least. The part you borrowed is considered math and not really copyrightable. Where were we? So yeah, so that's how you can run your Azure functions on a known port. Yeah, that's it. That one. So the WordPress blog posts, we're going to make our last Azure function. And we want a HTTP trigger again. And we're just going to do exactly the same as we did before. I am just going to copy the stuff across because that seemed to work for the last two. So let's just copy everything over at once. And that one should stay the same, the HTTP client library. That's cool. They were cool with your usage. That's nice. And absolutely go with this. Important thing is that the original author shouldn't feel that you were robbing them. Law and author on your side is nice. So we need to change this to a function, not a function name. We need to make this a HTTP response data. We'll format this so it's more readable on this resolution. And this needs to be HTTP request data. Okay, so that's our headers, the top bar done. Can actually get rid of this log. We don't need that. Got a HTTP client. We get the result just from the root. We need to import our picture post summary adapter. And now we need to make our return object. Okay, I'm getting the hang of this. This is starting to speed up. Var response equals rec dot create response. And we're going to go for HTTP response to response code. Just when you say that you think you've got it, it just disappears from your head. It is a HTTP. Yeah. Oh, status code, not response code. Stupid Stacy. HTTP status code. Okay, so there's our status code, and then we need to do the wonderful await response dot JSON. We want to write the summaries, and then we want to return the response. Yeah, I jinxed it. I'm very good at jinxing stuff. So let's get rid of all this up here. Let's try running this one. One last test, and then we'll try and run the site as a whole. And then we'll try doing a pull request to production. See whether or not we can get this live in 10 minutes, shall we? I doubt it. But we can try. Boop. Hey, we have WordPress blog posts. Okay. One last change that we need to do, because of the way that I deploy my site, I actually have to tell you, let's remove this one for now. Because we don't need the .NET 6 version anymore. Because I deploy my site in kind of a semi manual fashion, I actually tell the world what my API runtime is. And I can't remember what I have to change this one to. So let's go look at the instructions, shall we? I think it's something like .NET 7 isolated, but I can't remember the exact syntax. And let's face it, the internet was invented to find out syntax. Hey, look. It's the world of Dutch. So I need to change my static web app config to say .NET isolated 7.0. In theory, I hope that's everything that I need. Do a build and make sure I've not broken anything. Aw, thank you. I don't. It's nice that other people do. Now we can try... Oh, that's going to fail. That's going to fail. Is that going to fail? Yeah. The reason why I say that's going to fail is because I've got it set to start up on multiple projects, but I've not told it that I've replaced the API, so it doesn't quite know what it should start up on, I think. So API should start. So there is our backend. That's running 7071. That's fine. Here's our front end on a different resolution to the rest of the site. And then I need to open up my console and we need to do an SWA start HTTP. Oh, what is the HTTP for this? The static web app CLI has an error. I don't know what version I've got installed here. 102. Okay, this is going to work then. If you're running on the latest version, the 1.0.3, it doesn't connect to HTTPS front ends, unfortunately. There's an issue open on GitHub for it. Okay. Let's see if this works. Well, it boots. It's getting stuff on the back end. This is my really, really badly pre-rendered content being displayed whilst it loads. And unfortunately, it takes a while to load when you're running it through the CLI. Doobie 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 doo. Come on, you can do this, little computer. Please don't crash on me. Have you crashed? You've crashed. Okay, do we need to do this? No. Oh, you are really not happy, are you? Cannot use import.meta. Okay. What did I do wrong when I updated my WASM frontend to .NET 7? It's just like triple check that it's not some kind of cache crap. I don't think it is, but no. Damn it! Okay, I'm gonna have to have a look at this one off screen because I've only got 5 minutes left. Damn it! We're not gonna have it this week, but I tell you what, it's yeah, ow. Never mind. I'm gonna have a quick research over the week. I'm not actually gonna change this, but I am gonna have a bit of a check. So let's get back to the main camera for now. But we got quite a lot done. I'm actually impressed that in an hour and a half, the way I'm feeling, we even got to this stage. I've obviously done something daft with the Blazor site. So I'm just going to have a check there and see what I've done. Okay, I want to thank everybody for joining me this week. Thank you, Thindle. Thank you, Morton, for the excellent comments in the chat. It's you guys have really made it for me this week. This has been awesome. I will be back next week at this time, so I'm going to try and see if I can make this my regular time. We'll see what happens, and I'm going to try and be slightly better prepared for next week. Who knows? But this has been a lot of fun. And I think the last thing that I have to do is thank my boss, because we are actually sponsored. at the moment. My company, Omniplan, makes financial software based in Amsterdam in the Netherlands, and they're paying for my StreamYard subscription. So thank you so much. And they're also letting me do this on work time, which is also thank you very much. So on that note, have an awesome week, everybody. Thanks for joining me, and hopefully we'll get this one finished. Hey, we might even get the site updated before the start of the new year. Bye-bye for now.